Hey guys, the Wood Craftsman here. So in the intro to this video, you got to see the first cuts on the new miter saw station. So I kept the platform as far as the bench the same, but I changed the fence on the top and I changed the new miter saw. So there's a couple of things I want to target on this video. Mostly I want to talk mostly about this fence. There's a lot of reviews on the DeWalt DWS780. So I'm not going to do a lot of talking about this saw. There's a lot of other really good videos out about it. I did check this saw out of the box and I was very lucky that I got one that's really good. It was square out of the box both in for bevel cut and angle. So I was good there. And as far as it's being flat, it appears to be pretty flat. May not be as 100% flat as other people are looking for, but for the stuff we're doing in the shop here, it'll work just fine. So. And another thing I want to talk about was this Dawley fence system. So I knew that when I was looking for a new miter saw, I wanted to actually have a new fence set up as well. So I decided that if I'm going to buy a new sliding compound miter saw, I'm going to upgrade the fence set as well. So real briefly, this DeWalt DWS780, I was not interested in buying a DeWalt, but I had reached out to some of my colleagues on Instagram and also on the Small Cabinet Shop forum on Facebook, and I would say probably all the responses was 75+% was by the DeWalt. Now they didn't specify whether it was the DWS779 or DWS780. Watching some other reviews on YouTube, I found out that the DWS779 and DWS780 are not the same. They're very identical, but there's a lot of differences. And again, I'm not going to get into that, but I bought the 780 because it seemed to be that from the reviews I saw, the differences from some finished carpenters that actually have both of them had pointed out the differences. And it sounded like that in the 779 series, there's different builds, and each build, it seems to be that they started taking stuff away and starting adding it to the 780. If you want more information on that, there's a lot of good videos out on YouTube talking about these saws. And this fence setup, and I'll bring the camera a little bit closer, but in my search for finding a fence setup for a miter saw rail arm saw, now there's a lot out there as far as like the consumer end. Now back in my day when I went to school for cabinet making and wood finishing, I grew up with the Biesmeyer system, and that's where we're talking probably like the mid-90s and probably before that, where Biesmeyer actually built their fence deck and their fence setup specific to the miter saw model you had. And then when Delta had took over Biesmeyer, they came up with the universal setup. So you can get I think it was a narrow set and a wide set, but they weren't set to a specific saw. You basically have to shim your saw accordingly to make it even with the deck. So I wanted something that was more commercial. And I was really aiming high for a while. I was looking at the electronic positioning, such as the Tiger Stop, which is way above and beyond out of my price range for what I'm doing. And then Tiger Stop has a version called Saw Gear, which is kind of really designed more so for the contractor and finished carpenter, but it's finding its way into the small shops as well. And then there's also Razor Gauge, which Razor Gauge I believe runs off of an Android tablet. So they've kind of lowered the cost there as well. But all that was still a lot more money I was willing to spend. And then I came across this system called Dawley Glide Stop. And this, like I said, I'll bring the camera closer, but this stop, this isn't cheaply made. This isn't something just cobbled together. This is a heavy aluminum extrusion that's been machined to fit over their exclusive aluminum extrusion that is specifically for this. I can't find anything online as far as a aluminum extrusion that's like this. It's very unique, and it is something I think that's proprietary to Dawley. But what's really unique is the programmable stops, as they call it, which is nothing more than a mechanical stop that you can set up for all your presets. And in the shop here, we have a lot of presets. Let me bring the camera a little bit closer so you can kind of see what this is, and I'll go a little more detail. Okay, so what this is like I said, it's a very precision aluminum extrusion that has been basically machined to accept their exclusive casting. There's some UHMW glides in here that make this thing glide over well. There's this really unique pressure bar here that basically what it does is when you slip it over the extrusion, it's always putting pressure on the backside, so the extrusion or the stop is always tied up against the extrusion. That's a really nice thing. Now, right now I can't move it. It's locked in. And that's because of this lever. This lever references off another T-slot in the back that actually has some cap screws, which I'll show you here very shortly. But this thing, literally, it stays tied up against the backside because of this pressure bar, and then to lock it, it's literally, here's, it's loose, that's tight. That's all you need to, I mean, you really have to pound on this, and you go a little bit tighter if you want to, and that's pretty snug. But this is a commercial stop, and what sets apart the J.A. Dawley stop from a lot of the other stops is the fact of these presets. So on the back side here, you can kind of see these, basically it's just a cap screw, and each cap screw is set for a position I've already predetermined for common sizes used in the shop here. But the way it works is you just basically slide it up next to it. And in this case here, I'm reading 16 1/8. Now 16 1/8 is not a common size, but 6 1/8 is. And I use that for drawer front, so I'll have to use a 10-inch spacer to get that. I have it set up to actually push against it away from the saw. So that's where the numbers come from. So again, this one here is 16 1/8. This one here is 17 1/4, which is correct. This one here is 20 1/4, so 17 1/4 and 20 1/4 is for drawer box sides for half line dovetail. And I got another one here set at 21 1/8, which is one that I use for base cabinet doors for 1/2-inch overlay. So I have this whole thing set up with presets all the way down to the very end up to 94 1/2 inches. Anyways, that's how this works. Again, it just references as you push it against. You just have to make sure that when you set the preset, you know which side you're referencing off. In this case here, I'm referencing pushing away from the saw. J.A. Dawley is not, as far as I don't know, they don't really have a lot of social media. They do have a YouTube channel, but it took me forever to actually find the information on this company. And finally, in a Google search, I had come across an image of this, and obviously when you click on the image it shows you the source, and I saw that there was a YouTube link, so I'd watched it, and then I think there was a link in the video, or at least I knew then as far as what to search for in Google, and then I finally came across it. So it does come with the price. It's definitely not as cheap as the Craig or the Infinity or anything like that, but this is a true commercial fence. When I reached out to them, I actually talked to a guy named Jim. I believe Jim is the actual owner of it. Had some really good conversation with him, and sounds like the system is around for quite a while, but just doesn't really have a lot of information about it. So I decided on my own that I actually want to do a more informational video on this and actually get more people aware of this, because I believe if you are any kind of a small shop or large shop, any type of a commercial shop does kitchen cabinets or not kitchen cabinets, but any type of repetitive work, this is an asset if you think about it. It comes with a cost. There's multiple different sizes. I'm sure you can get custom sizes as well. But this one I have here on the right side or left side is an 8.5 foot model. I think they call it 8.5. With the glide stop, which is a stop block, 2 pieces of extrusion with the special splicing splices, and the tape and everything delivered is about $630, give or take a little bit, just depending on where you are, because I know it's aluminum, but this aluminum is pretty heavy, and I want to say that tube that this came in was quite heavy, so I want to say shipping was around $65 to my area. And I know that when I originally had talked to Jim, he said that shipping that they have found ranges between $60 and $70 just depending on where you're at. So that's kind of where we're at with that. The cost on this is $568, and what the interesting thing is that with all the market changes and everything, from conversations I've had with J.A. Dolly, that hasn't changed too much. So it seems to be it's kind of a stable market for them on this part of it. So the other thing about this as well is that the presets, you can set them up to I believe it's 9/16 apart, so that's basically back to back. And the nice thing is with the presets is you don't have to deal with that as far as if you need another number in between that you can't hit. Maybe it's like, for example, here I have 21 1/4 as a preset, but say I need to cut a piece that's 21 3/16 or 21 and whatever. All I need to do is pull this lever back, set it to where I want, and I can override it. And the index basically just overrides it. There's clearance here to allow that. This system, I truly believe, does not get the credit that it deserves. Like I said, I've been looking for a little while for a commercial fence. I thought I was just going to build my own commercial fence just using some 80/20 aluminum and then make my own block. And even with the extruded aluminum, it gets kind of expensive. And with everything I thought about putting into this, when I finally came across this, it was really a no-brainer. Just for a simple reason that I've learned in the past, sometimes you can build stuff cheaper yourself versus buying it. But from what I see with this here, this exceeds everything that I ever expected. I mean, this is a heavy-duty system. I've never worked in a shop that had one. That's why I said I never knew about it. It was actually on a Google search trying to find, you know, a commercial fence system. And like I said, originally I was kind of looking for the old Biesmeyer systems, but Delta had dropped that line a while back, to my understanding. So I basically had to come up with my own version. My takeaway on this that I kind of wanted to share with my viewers is, if you're in the market of any kind for a fence for a miter saw, radial arm saw, you could even outfit this on a sliding table saw or a panel saw. You just basically buy the extrusion by the size you need and you mount it to your equipment. This is, I mean, like I said, it's a pretty simple feature. Now, there's a lot of other accessories about this as well. And then one of the other things that I thought about adding at some point in time is they do make a digital readout, and that digital readout uses this exact same setup. And all you do is you buy the kit, and there is a digital readout that works with a magnetic strip that's included, and you lay the magnetic strip here in this channel in place of the tape. And actually, I guess you can have the tape on the back side. I chose to put the tape up front because I don't know if I'm ever going to do the upgrade or when I'm going to do it, if I do it. So if I do the upgrade, I'll end up ordering a new tape as well. But the nice thing about it is J. Dolly claims that the accuracy has a resolution of like 4/1000ths of an inch, and that's like 4/1000ths over 10 feet. So it's very tight. I did actually talk to them as far as how it actually works, and then, you know, if the battery goes dead, how do you recalibrate, things like that. It was very simple. I may add that at some point in time. And the nice thing is, again, because you can have the magnetic tape in the front and the measuring tape in the back, you can actually use it as a reference point. So if your battery dies or whichever, and you don't have another battery, I want to say it's a C battery, I think you said they use, it lasts for like up to a year, maybe a little bit longer, depending on your usage. At least then you got a fail safe. So that was kind of a nice feature. I may look at it at some point in time, but again, what I was really after here was just a robust stop that was pretty cost effective. I mean, if you're building any kind of kitchen cabinets or bathroom vanities, even if it's a part-time gig and you're cranking out cabinets, something like this is definitely worth your weight, and, you know, worth the money and your time. Because for me, like I said, I've got like 8 presets set up so far. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a couple, and I'll come across that, you know, probably in a job where I need to add another preset or two. It's definitely worth looking into. I just wish I would have known about this a long time ago, because I would have probably bought this at the very beginning. This is something that, like I said, I would strongly recommend this to any cabinet maker or woodworker or anybody just looking for a positioning system, even for cutting metal or whichever, anything where you need repeatability. And their video overview goes over a lot of different things as far as the other options they have. They have another one too called the Zero Block, where you can actually use it for part sizing. So that was kind of a cool feature. I didn't really know enough about it to talk about in this video, but like I said, they have a video overview of all their products that will definitely kind of go over some things. They do also make a deck as well. You can buy the kit. For me, I felt I could build it cheaper, and building these 2 decks did cost me a little bit of a pain as far as some frustrations I ran into, but I got through it. So I'm going to move the camera back now, and we're going to make some cuts with it, just to show you how easy it is to work. Alright, so I'm just going to make a few cuts. I'm going to show you the positioning of this fence. I know you're a little bit farther away, but it's kind of the best angle to get to it because I am right-handed, so I'm staying on this side. But this is literally pretty simple. So I'm just going to basically use some arbitrary numbers, and then I'll do a couple presets as well. So how long can I get it? So 22. It's going to get noisy. Right on 22. I'm going to do a preset stop. So now if I'm going through my cut list, I just loosen up and say, oh, I need 21 1/8. So I go here, I find 21 1/8. Right there I'm at. It's actually clicked into 21 1/8 right there. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's where the preset is. So I'm going to lock it down. Make my cut. Take a measurement. I am exactly 21 1/8. Exactly even. Okay, so now you're going to say, well, that's great. You used the preset twice because you didn't move it. How well does it repeat? Let's find out. So this piece is shorter, so I gotta use a different preset, but that's okay. Make sure you pick these up, they'll make noise. So I'm going to go back to a preset here of 16 1/8. Right there, 16 1/8. All right, this first piece, double check, is 16 1/8, right on the money. Now, like I said, well, you got a preset. Well, let's make sure it works. So I move the fence. I come back. Right there. 16 1/8. Lock it down. There we go. These are exactly even. Perfect. The one thing about this, I'm gonna turn the blower off. The one thing about this setup in general is with having presets, it takes the guesswork, especially if you have these common sizes. I know that with the old system, I'd see some very small variability in door sizing, especially on heights, when a height should be exact, because, well, for example, when we build doors in the shop here, we build them an 1/8 inch oversized. We've got our machinery basically calibrated so that way when we build them, they come out exactly an 1/8 inch oversized. However, it all starts with your cutting of your materials as well. And one thing I've noticed is that because when the cabinets are built and the face frames are built, we pre-drill in the corners for the hinges with a jig. It's 2.5 inches, it's actually 3 inches on center of the door, 2.5 inches on center from the edges. And so theoretically, the door should be 1 inch taller than the opening, and when you put the hinges on, that screw should be in the center of the side opening. What we've been finding is that's not always the case, especially if your door is just a pinch short, or for example, if your wall cabinet is a pinch tall or short or whichever, your face frame. So this I found, from what I see right now, is going to help reduce a lot of that. Now there's other variations with other processes that can contribute to that, but this is one thing just to eliminate when it comes to that. So I kind of hope that this is encouraging to you guys who are looking for a sliding, or not so much the miter saw, but the miter saw fence setup with the preset. The only tricky part is it took me a little bit to kind of get used to when I was setting this up, is always referencing from the same side of your stop. So in this case here, I'm always pushing against it, so that way it can never move away from the preset. It's always pushing against the preset. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this intro to this. Based on the feedback, maybe I'll do more and more videos on this, but I just really want to kind of put it out there because, like I said, I'm not being sponsored by a J.A. Dolly or DeWalt. This is strictly my own review, and I just kind of wanted to share these features. Like I said, on the DeWalt side, there's many videos on this saw, but as far as the J.A. Dawley, I didn't find anything on YouTube other than the fact it was the manufacturer's video. I didn't find any other shops using it. From what I can tell, this is a very sound fence. For $560 some plus shipping, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than an electronic positioner, and it's literally, it's a fail-safe. You don't have any wear parts. I mean, I shouldn't say that. You got UHMW strips in here maybe that might wear at some point in time, but I mean, nothing major or mechanical that can fail in this. So it's just a very simple setup. Like I said, I wish I would have known about this when I did my very first setup back in the late 90s. But as I'm getting older, I'm getting smarter, and the other thing too is I'm starting to put more investment back into the shop again. So. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Questions and comments are welcome. Thanks for watching. But this 780, obviously years later, has definitely an incoming text message. Thanks, Jeremy.